Okay, this is the part of the show when we get to know a little bit more about one of our hosts. This week, it's Adam that I'm going to be asking the questions to. So you ready, Adam?
Hello. I am indeed.
Okay. So these questions might be familiar from anyone that saw last week's episode. So the first question is, what was the first film you saw in the cinema?
The first film that I saw, but I don't remember seeing at the cinema, was E.T. Being a similar age to Lloyd, perhaps unsurprising, that was the first movie. The first movie I remember seeing at the cinema was Return of the Jedi. I'd seen the first two films on VHS or even possibly terrestrial telly, and they were so important to me. I thought they were such brilliant films that when I actually got to see Return of the Jedi on the cinema, I actually thought for a while that was my favorite. I think maybe for 6, 7, 8, 9 years, I thought that Return of the Jedi was the best of the three. I'm sure that many people have different debates. I'm quite happy now that Empire Strikes Back is the best movie out of those three, probably followed by Star Wars and then Return of the Jedi. But being, like a 4 or 5-year-old kid, possibly even younger, going to see Return of the Jedi, having understood, I think at the time, some of the main issues in the film, maybe not the big sort of familial issues, and then just the fact that there were Ewoks and what was happening with them was something that kids really liked. And so all of the things now that we hate about the remakes with like Jar Jar Binks and things like that, actually they're in it for a reason, and the Ewoks were a reason why I really liked it as a kid. So I think Lloyd joked last week even about Caravan of Courage or Battle of Ferendor. I watched those movies. I rented those VHS movies. Exactly. I really, really enjoyed it. Probably in the scheme of things, they were not very good movies, but yeah, I remember that definitely being a movie that I came out of really having enjoyed. There was just something about Star Wars, and I'll come to it later when you ask me the obvious question. But that's what I remember as the first movie I went to. I've been told many a time that I came out of E.T. crying my eyes out on my dad's shoulder, but I don't have any recollection. I love E.T. I've seen it many, many, many times at home, but I don't remember being in the cinema watching it once.
Give us a movie fact or Easter egg.
I'll give you both. I'll give you a movie fact only because I read this yesterday, I think. Sharon Stone's got a new book out, and she's referenced the fact that when she was producer on The Quick and the Dead, do you remember the sort of Western that she was the star in? TriStar Pictures were impressed with Leonardo DiCaprio, and I think he just got a nomination for an Oscar for What's Eating Gilbert Grape. And she was really impressed with him. And they said, well, if you want him, you can pay his wages. So she did. So the reason he's in that movie is because Sharon Stone paid his wages. In terms of an Easter egg, one that I really like is in Trading Places, Dan Aykroyd's character, Lewis Winthorpe, the second or third, he's arrested towards the start of the movie, and he has like the plate, the prison number or whatever, the arrest number, and that arrest number is the same number as Joliet Jake Blues had from the Blues Brothers, which was played by John Belushi. Both films were directed by Ivan Reitman. Dan Aykroyd was in both, and in fact there's a couple of other layers in relation to that, but basically the number, it's something like 7474505B on the Joliet Jake Blues one, but actually it looks like they got it wrong for Dan Aykroyd's character on Trading Places, and actually it's an 8 rather than a B. Wow. There's another movie as well that Dan Aykroyd's in. I can't remember what it is. I think Crazy Like Us or something like that with Walter Matthau, where he's also got a prison number, and it's the same one as the original, but actually has the B rather than the 8. The reason I like that whole Easter egg is that Dan Aykroyd was in Trading Places with Eddie Murphy, and when he wrote Ghostbusters, he wrote it with Peter Venkman effectively being Eddie Murphy. He wrote it for Eddie Murphy, and also he expected John Belushi to be in that movie as well. So I like the sort of link between Eddie Murphy and John Belushi and Ghostbusters and Dan Aykroyd. And another fact associated with that as well, apparently, is that they wanted Slimer to look like John Belushi.
I was waiting for you to finish. I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, and apparently the guy who designed it said, yeah, I'll make it exactly like him. Didn't do anything different, didn't redesign it at all. And they were like, it's amazing. He looks just like John Belushi. And he was like, my work here is done.
He's an ugly little spud.
And apparently, obviously, the reason why he wasn't in Ghostbusters was because John Belushi passed away from a drug overdose, I think. But Eddie Murphy wasn't in it because he thought it sounded like a croc.
Next question, Adam. First movie soundtrack you bought?
This is a little embarrassing. Armageddon.
For the Aerosmith classic.
I don't even know really why I bought it. I mean, I like the film, Michael Bay classic.
I know why you bought it.
I think it was...
so you just go, oh, there's a really emotional bit in this movie. Let me just put the CD on.
I think I quite liked
just.
I always remember on the film. I always remember on the film there was that terrible bit with Ben Affleck when he was he's going the Animal Channel and he tried to be Australian on Liv Tyler's like tummy. And she, here in the undergrowth, the giraffe attacks. And it's terrible, but it's like some sort of like acoustic version of "Don't Want to Miss a Thing" in the background, which was doubly weird because it was Liv Tyler's dad singing as she was just about to embark on something.
No. Bruce Willis is a dad, not Steven Tyler.
Yeah. Do you know what?
In real life,
Steven Tyler wasn't sold at first, so this may or may not be true. Again, it's one of my facts that are always dubious.
Lloyd's facts.
They showed the scene to Steven Tyler where it's basically from the real scene from the movie where Bruce Willis's feet's about to cut out, and she goes, "Dad," and puts a hand on the TV screen wherever she's watching, like in NASA, because obviously Steven Tyler's her dad, and he just got that emotional link with it. And goes, "Yeah, I'll do it," and that's why they put the song for the movie. True story.
Excellent. I always like Chantal Krasovic's Leaving on a Jet Plane rather than the original by John Denver. I think that's probably why I bought the album, but I have no idea why, but probably for the reason Lloyd gave earlier.
Right, Adam, next question is first 18 film you watched?
Enter the Dragon. Is
that an 18?
Yeah, at the time it was considered to be ultra violent. I'm not sure whether that was slightly superseded by an older VHS of The Octagon, starring Chuck Norris. But yeah, I remember very, very young, I used to sneak to watching any martial arts film I could possibly find on terrestrial telly. And the BBC used to play things like Enter the Dragon at like 11 o'clock at night. And I remember, I don't know what it was, but something about John Saxon's character in that I thought was quite cool. Not just Bruce Lee's character. And I've watched that film probably 50 times since. I probably saw that when I was about 9 or 10. So yeah, that's the first 18 certificate film I watched.
So, Adam, what's the first film or TV show that made you cry?
Okay, I'll stay with film. First one that I'm told made me cry, as I said earlier, was E.T. The first film that I remember crying in was The Neverending Story, when Artax, the horse, died in the Swamp of Sadness. I think.
That is sad. That is really sad.
And I remember being quite... I remember being disturbed by that, and it wasn't until obviously the end of the movie where it's like everything's resurrected because it moves on and Atreyu's off riding Artax again.
Falcor, Atreyu, Falcor.
It was the first movie that, and weirdly, because I think I was very, very young, that and Gremlins were the first two films that I had on VHS. I think those two, and possibly Santa Claus the movie with John Lithgow and
Dudley Moore.
who else? Dudley Moore, yeah, were the first three films on VHS that I had. So I watched Neverending Story quite a lot. First film that I remember really sort of deeply being upset about, though, was Boys in the Hood. And, you know, Ricky, I would say a linebacker or something like that, is Trey's mate.
Dreams. He's going to go to college and get a spot.
But the weird thing was, but the thing was, and this is the thing that made me feel that maybe, you know, like a bit older when I was watching it. I don't think I cried necessarily when he was killed in the movie. I think I cried, you know, when they brought his body back to his mum, and it was the same time she had the delivery of the test results, and he needed some like 700 on his SATs to get his football scholarship. And basically, she opens it, and he's got like 710, so he would have got his his American football scholarship, but he was shot dead. I remember that just absolutely flooring me as a movie. So that's the thing I sort of remember most being emotionally affected by, despite the earlier incidents of Neverending Story and E.T.
Okay. Who do you think is the best Bond?
Sean Connery. I think Sean's iconic. I think Sean, as far as I'm concerned, Sean Connery is James Bond. I think everyone else has been a different version of him. I still think that Goldfinger is probably the ultimate Bond film from what was written by Fleming. You know, you've got Auric Goldfinger, you've got, you know, a proper heist, you've got, you know, the henchman that is Oddjob. I mean, there's so many classic details that's the main one that's been copied by, you know, Austin Powers with Random Task and things like that. You know, and do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. Things like that.
You know, that was going to be a circular saw.
Yeah, was it laser beam?
They changed it for a laser beam, didn't they? It was originally going to be a circular saw. I think one of you two told me that.
But do you know the interesting thing about James Bond is that I remember my mum hating it because it was so loud whenever they did the action moments. The music seemed to be cranked up 3 times louder than anything else. And I kept having to be told to turn the volume down. Yeah, I had to turn the volume down every single time. But,
okay, so the next question, Adam, is who do you consider to be the most underrated actor?
Actually, a female actor who is really, really good is Michelle Rodriguez. I think that she doesn't necessarily get the roles that she should have. Perhaps slightly pigeonholed by being in all the Fast and Furious movies. But if you watch like Girl Fight or more recently Widows, don't know if you've both seen that. She's absolutely brilliant actress. But I suppose one that I think that doesn't get the plaudits that he should get, perhaps, is Sam Rockwell. I think Sam Rockwell for me is an actor, you know, Al Pacino or Robert De Niro. I think he's absolutely fantastic. I'd like to say Lloyd, but no.
Isn't that who you said, Lloyd?
Yeah, I said it, and then I think Adam went, no, just have one, just have one.
I suppose if it wasn't for the series Billions, Paul Giamatti would be up there for me as being an actor that I think is quite underrated.
Sideways, very good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You tried to get me to watch that many, many a time.
Have you not seen it yet?
Still not seen it.
Oh, wow. So we can do it every time. Adam hasn't seen something.
I've seen it.
But,
I've seen it. Can you believe it? I've seen it.
Oh, high five.
So, yeah, I'd say Paul Giamatti.
Okay, Adam, the next question is, name a featured song or soundtrack that resonates with you. And you can't say Armageddon.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would be a liar if I didn't say that the soundtrack that I've listened to most over the years is completely incongruous compared to my filmic knowledge, and that's Dirty Dancing.
I was going to say that. Damn it! I wish I'd preempted that now.
My sister watched that film almost non-stop and listened to the soundtrack many times in her bedroom, and I can remember every single song, and I've watched the film lots and lots and lots, and I don't know whether it's an indoctrination or not, but that's probably a guilty pleasure. I very much like that as a soundtrack. In terms
time of my life.
In terms of scores or sort of general compositions, anything by John Williams always resonates with me. I'm quite a Spielberg fan, as you know. Superman, Star Wars, they all have something different, but there's still something that's integrally John Williams that runs through all of the scores. But in terms of a single song, and Dave, I think you'll probably agree with me on some levels on this, as a single song, the John Spence blues explosion with bell bottoms at the start of Baby Driver is possibly one of my favorite starts to a film ever. That from start to finish, Edgar Wright has fashioned his action around the movement and the beat of that song from the very first note to the very end. And I don't even know to this day whether I like Baby Driver as a film, because I just assume that it's a perfect film because before those titles rolled, I just and I think that as a modern film is one of my favorite films, possibly because of that opening number. So I'd say as a single song, probably Bell Bottoms from Baby Driver.
Okay. Adam, what's your favorite movie set piece?
I was thinking about this from Lloyd being asked, because I actually wrote, I think, that question a couple of weeks ago for Lloyd. I don't think I really knew what I was asking with it. Did I mean a huge action sequence? Did I mean something that was sort of twee that just impressed me very much? You know, am I talking about the car chasing Bullet? Am I talking about the
that was going to be my guess for yours?
Was it?
I swear to God.
Was I talking about
like just
was I talking about the Dark Knight Batpod chase, or is it something as simple as Merry Christmas Emporium in the end of It's a Wonderful Life? But
can I have one more guess before you say it? Can I have one more guess?
Go on.
Steve McQueen, The Great Escape, on his bike, jumping over
the. You know what? The reason why I've chosen the one that I have is because it's so different to the sort of thing that I'd like to project as a movie fan. And it's a real guilty pleasure, but it's also there's a second level to it, which hopefully will make sense. My guilty pleasure favorite set piece is actually Tango and Cash, the start of the movie, when Sly Stallone parks his car across the highway and the truck comes towards it, and he takes his gun and he empties out the bullets and puts a new set of 6 bullets, spins the barrel and then aims it at the truck and fires it, and then basically they put on the brakes and the two guys in the truck come flying out and they're landing at his feet, and he says, do the honors or cuff yourself. I remember that as an opening scene to a movie, an action movie, being, to me, absolutely perfect. And I was gutted because I watch quite a lot of foreign films and martial arts films particularly. I'm a fan of Jackie Chan. And for some reason, I hadn't seen Police Story. And I watched Police Story about 6 or 7 months after I first saw Tango and Cash. And that scene is an absolute carbon copy, an exact, almost moment-to-moment copy of a scene in Police Story where Jackie Chan does exactly the same, I think, with maybe a bus rather than a truck. But it is almost perfectly the same. So my favorite set piece is a copy of a previous set piece, but it's
how did they make it better, Adam? How did they make that scene better?
Because it had Sly Stallone in.
And he goes and he shoots the tanker and goes and says what?
Oh, look, it's snowing.
Yeah. Winner.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
I'm going to shock you now. I'm not sure I've seen Tango and Cash. I might have seen it. I actually might have seen it. I'm not sure.
Ray Tango.
Is it Kurt Russell as well?
Ray Tango has cost me $7 quasquillion. Gabriel Cash has cost me 2,000. I hate them both equally, and I will seek vengeance both with equal pressure to both. It's like, all right, well, just take care of Ray Tango and just do whatever with Gabriel Cash.
Okay, thanks for that answer, Adam.
Pleasure.
My next question. Do you have a female movie crush?
My movie crush is Kelly LeBrock.
Isn't she like 70?
Yeah, I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about when I was younger. Because I remember when I was a kid, when I saw Weird Science for the first time, she was my idea of the perfect woman. Not my movie crush now, but certainly, yeah, from years gone by, Kelly LeBrock.
So next question, Adam, is what's your preference, Marvel or Star Wars?
Okay, so Star Wars. And the main reason for that is because I don't think I would have got into films as much as I did if it wasn't for the original Star Wars saga. I think I've watched those 3 films so many times that they sort of forged my view of cinema. And I suppose it means that I've not been so critical when I've watched, the new films. Even when I've watched Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, I've still looked at that with the sort of golden age of, childhood cinema in my eyes. I think the Marvel movies are brilliant. I think modern classics. I think if you ask any kid who's like 7 or up now that's seen any of those films or seen the Star Wars films, without shadow of a doubt, they're all going to say the Marvel films. I think they're brilliantly made. I think they are of the time now. But when you think about industrial light and music, is that right? Industrial light and music? Magic.
Industrial light and magic.
Industrial light and music. When you look at
just like that.
When you look at
just like that.
When you look at industrial light and magic, and how they've developed from Star Wars and all of the groundbreaking stuff they've done, I don't think a lot of cinema and special effects would have been possible without Star Wars. So I suppose there's something in me that just says, yeah, I think ultimately I'm always going to prefer Star Wars. I love The Mandalorian. I think that's an attempt at bringing Star Wars more towards the Marvel thematic styling, but still trying to stay true to the Star Wars canon. There's a lot of stuff associated with Star Wars as well that we don't see because there's countless books and comics associated with it that explains more that the movies maybe have missed. And I think people have been annoyed by the constant tweaking of George Lucas to various scenes, such as the infamous "Who Shot First" with Han Solo,
and Han walking on Jabba's tail in the Mos Eisley just before they leave. It's just
exactly.
Well done, George.
But I think the thing that I looking back I liked about it is the fact that they used models, the fact that it wasn't shiny and new. Things were a little bit gritty. That things in the future or things in a galaxy far, far away, it wasn't just shiny new stuff. It was, this is people experiencing real things elsewhere. And I didn't think for a moment when I saw the first 3 films that anything wasn't real. You watch The Phantom Menace and everything's CG. It's obviously CGI. And they found a nice balance with those old movies, which they've lost a lot of that with the remake. I think when they've moved on to 7, 8, and 9, they've caught some of that again, and they've managed to capture some of that magic. But yeah, Star Wars.
Thank you for your comprehensive response. My blood is really pleased with you.
just go, man, just go.
Okay, so next question's a biggie for fans of 80s movies such as yourself. So the question is, Stallone or Schwarzenegger?
I'd say, and it's not an easy answer for me, actually. I'd say Stallone. The Rocky films, weirdly, more Rocky 3 and Rocky 4, even though Rocky and Rocky 2 are much better films. Those films were just part of my growing up. You know, the montage training scene in Rocky 4 particularly was something that I watched over and over again.
Background.
Yeah, and I would rewind that and watch that over and over again, just that one scene, and keep watching it on repeat. And I remember the sort of the same thing resonating all the time, that it's, you know, we know that he's not going to be a very good fighter until Adrian gets herself into the frame of mind that she's going to support him, and then it's going to all work out. But also, I think Stallone's other movies like Cliffhanger, Demolition Man, Over the Top, were all films that, as I was growing up, at the exact time that they were suited for me, just came about. Whereas I think Schwarzenegger's Predator and Terminator 2, I was a little bit older when I was enjoying them, so I think I'd already been blooded on Stallone. So I say sorry to Arnie, but Sylvester Stallone.
So the final question of this section is, name a film you've watched without knowing anything about it.
Get Out.
Well, now.
Yeah, good answer.
Get Out, which is Jordan Peele directed, and I only knew Jordan Peele from Key and Peele, and even then I hadn't really seen much by way of his comedy, so I didn't know what it was. I just remember somebody saying, you really need to see this film, it's an absolutely exceptional piece of filmmaking. I didn't know anything about the story. I didn't even I think I might have known that Daniel Kaluuya was in it, but I didn't know what role he had. I didn't know how significant he was, whether he was a major or a minor character. And actually, the reason why I mention it is I just think it's one of the best films that I've seen, that I didn't have a starting point when I turned it on. I watched it on my own in the dark about 11 o'clock at night, probably the best and worst time to watch a film like that. And I was absolutely enthralled the whole way through.